Hey everybody, welcome. How are you feeling today? Welcome to the global community for adult survivors of complex trauma. We are going to have a community discussion on the topic of healthy boundaries and safe people. And hello, Kelly Jelly. Hello, Poppy. Hello, James. Hello, Shannon. Hello, Kimberly. Hello, Anna. So good to see you. Hey, I'm so glad you had your notifications on. Hi, Wendy. Aw, so happy to see each and every one of you. Hi, Tabby Ba. Hi, John Harvey. Hi, Melissa. So happy to see each and every one of you. If you decide this video is helpful for you, it would really help me out a lot if you decided to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to subscribe to this channel, then that would be awesome too. Hey, Lance. Hello, Gadir. And then if you want to click the little bell notification, the little bell for notifications, and that means you won't miss any, oh my gosh, thanks, Jennifer. Oh, wow, that's a neat thing. I never even knew that was possible. Hi, Anne. So, yeah, if you click the little bell for notifications, and you won't miss any, anytime I'm going to go live on a video. Hey, Angela. So good to see you. So good to see each and every one of you. I am going to go grab some water really quick, and I will be back. The sun just went behind a cloud, but it was really hot out here. I'm trying to sit in the corner a little bit. But I'm going to go grab some water real quick. And hey, Mod Squad in the house. Thanks, James. The Blue Wrench crew to the rescue. You guys are amazing. Yeah, so I'll be back in just a couple minutes. Poppy is going to be posting some crisis information. Hey, Broken Childhood, I'm so happy to see you. So yeah, Poppy's going to post some crisis information. Hey, Lisa, so happy to see you. So this is never crisis care, right? This is just trauma-informed peer support. Hey, Joey. Hey, hey. Yeah, so good to be with the family. You guys are my friendly family of choice. Hello, Miss Vi. So yeah, I'll be back. I'll be back in a couple minutes. Poppy's gonna post some crisis information. And you guys know that I'm really passionate about suicide prevention. So a lot of people find our channel because they are contemplating completing their suicide. And so if you wanted to copy any of this crisis information that Poppy is sharing right now in the chat box, and you wanted to paste that out on social media, just let people know that we're having a friendly discussion, then that would be really, really awesome. And you might save a life. You never know, right? But I mean, it's never mental health care being on YouTube. Always seek professional trauma-informed support from a licensed clinician or mental health care provider outside of YouTube, obviously. But you're welcome here, and we're really glad that you've decided to show up. So I'll be right back. I'm just going to go grab some water and possibly try to scout out a spot that will be more in the shade, because right now I'm like, even though I'm hiding in this little corner over here, the sun is hitting me, and it's going to give me a sunburn. So I'm going to try to scout out like a different little spot here to sit while we have a talk. Hey, Hunter. Oh, you're super sleepy. I'm glad you're here. I'll be right back. I'm going to go grab some water and scout out a shady spot. Okay. Well, hello. I'm back. We're going to move over here. We're going to see if I can stay out of the sun so that I don't get sunburned. Here, let's go like that. That better? That's nice. I don't know if this is gonna work. Let's go like this. Oops, how about that? Is that weird? How about that? Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Kelly Jelly. I receive your hug, and I send you hugs right back. Hi, Doris. Ooh, hello to Sylvia. Welcome. So happy that you're here. So we're talking about healthy boundaries, and we're talking about safe people. And welcome to anyone who is clicking on this channel for the very first time. So happy that you've chosen to be here. Broken Childhood had a really long day. I'm sorry you had a really long day. I hope that you're able to rest really well tonight and get a really good night's sleep. Hey, what do you think about feeding the birds? Maybe we should toss out some little sunflower seeds for the cardinals, because cardinals love sunflower seeds. How does that sound? Let's see if we could do that. Here, 1 second, and I will get some sunflower seeds for the cardinals, and we'll toss it out there and see if the little birdies will come. We had quite the showing. We had some birds last week, and some butterflies, and some dragonflies. So let's see if we can have the Nature Channel show up again. 1 second here. We're gonna toss out some birdseed here. Here goes nothing, okay? Let me walk around over here. Hello. I think this will still be in the frame if we do it here. Okay. I bet you they're gonna come and visit us now because we have given them enough sunflower seeds to last them a while. I hope they're gonna be in frame. Here, let's go like this. See what we can do. How's that? Oops. How's that? Yes, food for the birds. Today's Earth Day. Yes. So good to see each and every one of you. How fun would that be if the birdies actually came? Sometimes it just takes them a little while. They will come to visit us, I hope. Hi, Guayanas. So good to see you. Sylvia says, I only remember because I share my birthday with the earth. Oh my gosh, what a cool birthday. What a cool birthday that would be. I love that, Vi. I hope the birdies come. That would be really cool. I bet you they will. They come in the mornings. It's great to see you, Guayanas. Oh, here's some butterflies that are flying around sort of in circles. I don't know if you can see them. Hi, Holistic Recovery. No, my birthday's not today. I believe it's Sylvia's birthday today, which is Earth Day. She says she shares a birthday with the earth. I share a birthday with Halloween, which it was kind of a traumatizing thing as an adult. Well, as a child, I never had a birthday. Like, it wasn't really like my family celebrated anything. That wasn't really like a thing, you know? Which is, you know, that's a hard thing when you're a kid. But as an adult, and I was in, you know, depends on certain circles that you're involved with. Like, you know, they start saying that, you know, Halloween is the devil's day and it's an evil day and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, hello, like, I can't control when I'm born. Like, that's a cruel, horrible thing to say to someone, right? Oh my gosh, Poppy's birthday is in a few days, you guys. Hello. Happy birthday, Poppy. That's amazing. Oh, Gadir's birthday is on the 23rd of October. You are not getting old, Poppy. You are not getting old. There's no way. We get to celebrate you. We get to celebrate Poppy Day. Oh, Vi says Halloween became a great birthday when Athena was born. Hey, Angela's birthday's next month. John Harvey says, I loved Halloween and it's not evil. Thank you. Thank you. It's a hard thing when people start saying stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Hi, Sharon. So good to see you. Hello, Kira. June, Vi says, I'm a June birthday. You're a June baby. So we were just having a discussion um, about healthy boundaries and safe people over on our daily call. I host daily calls for complex trauma survivors through the foundation. Lance says, no worries, I'm sure I'm the old man here, LOL. I doubt it. No, you're not, Lance. Joey says, my birthday was 12 days ago. Happy belated birthday, Joey. So through the foundation, I host daily peer support calls. Hey, Declan. It's so awesome to see you. Hello, Tracy. Hello, Pixie Painter. No way! Your Halloween birthday? No way. Oh, thanks, Poppy. Yeah, okay, so through the foundation, that Poppy just put the link in there, I host daily recovery support calls. And today's topic was boundaries and safe people. And so I figured, gosh, this is always a really, really, really good topic that, you know, for us to discuss as complex trauma survivors, because you know, part of the thing, one of the most devastating and difficult and painful things about complex trauma. So as you know, let's just talk about complex trauma for a second. So CPTSD, also known as complex PTSD, also known as developmental trauma, and in some countries is diagnosed as chronic PTSD. There's a dissociative element that goes along with the anxiety and the panic and the nightmares and the flashbacks. And when you implement a dissociative element into PTSD, it becomes complex PTSD. Now, the difference between PTSD and complex PTSD is PTSD can happen from any type of traumatic situation, whether that be a death of a pet, a natural disaster, hurricane, earthquake, tornado, death of a loved one. Perhaps you get stuck in an ice storm and you're unable to get out, and then it's very, very triggering for you to be around cold weather. Perhaps you enlist when you are, 17, 18 years old, when you're young, and you go into the military, and then let's say you get deployed and you experience some traumatic things when you're in the military. And one of the most common ways that people identify with post-traumatic stress disorder is when people come back from war, whether that be World War II, the Vietnam War, Operation Iraqi Freedom, come back from Afghanistan, Kuwait, whatever combat situation they come back from. Let's say they're a veteran, then people identify PTSD with veterans. That's one of the things that they associate it with. Well, one of the misnomers, or maybe little known facts about complex PTSD, this is complex PTSD versus PTSD. PTSD is you had a trauma, it's an isolated incident, or even a multiple time incident, but you know what that incident is. You can identify it with it. You perhaps have nightmares or flashbacks regarding certain smells or sounds, or weather patterns, or the type of, even someone who is robbed, or perhaps they're mugged, or even, heaven forbid, they're raped, or they are assaulted in some way. You can have PTSD. It's a one-time occurrence. It's a trauma that happens that you can identify. The one individual time that it happened, you can point to that and say, this is what I'm traumatized by. That's PTSD. Complex PTSD is interpersonal in nature 100% of the time. Okay? With the exception of someone who is in a concentration camp or is perhaps a prisoner of war. Okay? But again, that's interpersonal in nature. So 100% of the time it's interpersonal in nature. And what I was trying to say is, if you're a prisoner of war, obviously that's interpersonal in nature because you're being held captive by someone else and there's an uneven power dynamic. So what I meant to say is almost 100% of the time complex trauma originates in childhood. The exception being someone who's in a prisoner of war situation or a concentration camp situation. And but what is the case is that complex trauma is 100% of the time interpersonal in nature. There's another human involved in your trauma. You're traumatized by another human, and typically it's a caregiver. But in the case of a prisoner of war or a concentration camp situation, it's not necessarily your parent or a caregiver in childhood. It is the caregiver of the concentration camp, or it is the prison guard. And so there's an uneven power dynamic there. If you're a child, it's a parent or caregiver, and if you're a prisoner of war, it's the person who is the prison guard. Okay, so complex trauma happens over a long period of time. It happens more than once, and it is always interpersonal in nature, and there's always an uneven power dynamic, and so therefore you cannot get away. Either you think you can't get away, right? Because you're in a, let's say, a domestic violence situation, you're in an abusive relationship, and someone is emotionally abusive, physically abusive, financially abusive, religiously abusive. Some sort of abuse is going on, but it's interpersonal in nature. There's another person involved in the trauma. That is complex trauma. PTSD isn't necessarily interpersonal in nature, but it can be. But complex trauma, 100% of the time, it's interpersonal in nature. There's an uneven power dynamic, and you, the person who endured the complex trauma, has an inability to escape or get away, and so therefore you're trapped. So, and also with complex trauma, your triggers it will likely, commonly trigger dissociation, and not necessarily only a nightmare or hypervigilance or a panic attack or anxiety, okay, or depression. It can also trigger dissociation. Now, dissociative episodes, there are dissociative episodes that are somewhat predictable, and then there are dissociative episodes which are unpredictable. We don't know we're dissociating until we've already dissociated. Those are unpredictable episodes of dissociation. And predictable episodes of dissociation are, I've dissociated enough times to know that when I take a shower, I tend to dissociate. How do I know I've dissociated? Well, before I know it, I'll jump in the shower and I'll be showering, and the next thing you know, I'll get out of the shower and I will think that only 10 minutes has passed, but it's been 55 minutes. So therefore, I have dissociated in the shower. I've gone somewhere else, and what happens, and I'm speaking about myself right now, this is me, Athena, right now in the year 2019, April 22nd, I tend to dissociate in the shower. Why do I dissociate in the shower? Well, I'm a survivor of complex trauma. So what does that mean? That means that I have been traumatized by another human, that my trauma happened over a long period of time. It was continual. There was an uneven power dynamic, so I was unable to get away. And now I am living with the after effects of that. So there's damage to my vagus nerve, there's damage to the hippocampus, there's damage to the prefrontal cortex. Oftentimes we don't even have, most of our prefrontal cortex is missing, right? Why? Because for a long period of time, our brains were soaking in a toxic soup of cortisol and adrenaline and other stress chemicals, which were keeping us at a level of high alert, trying to survive throughout all the long-term trauma that was going on with this other person, aka complex trauma. And so the toxic soup that my brain was sitting in eroded certain areas of my brain that an otherwise healthy brain would not show up on an MRI, magnetic resonant imaging. So if you look at an MRI of a quote-unquote healthy brain, perhaps of a quote-unquote healthy child who had a healthy attachment with good enough parents and healthy enough caregivers, and there was no interpersonal trauma that happened over a long period of time where the baby / child / teen / young adult is unable to escape, but there's healthy enough environment, healthy enough relationships. There's nurturing, there's love, acceptance, there's compassion, kindness, patience, that my basic needs are met: food, shelter, clothing, love, acceptance, approval. And so if you were to look at the MRI of that person's brain next to an MRI of someone who, let's say, was born into a family where it was an unwanted pregnancy, where perhaps the mother and the father were partaking in drugs or alcohol or cigarettes, or an exorbitant amount of stress or interpersonal violence, or they were negligent about the food that they were eating. They weren't caring properly. The mother wasn't caring properly for her body. Maybe she was under, again, an inordinate amount of stress. It was an unwanted pregnancy. And then perhaps she gives birth to the child. Maybe it's a traumatic birth. Maybe the umbilical cord's wrapped around my neck. Maybe I end up being born breech, which is when your bottom comes out first instead of your head. And so therefore your body is squished and you don't have proper airway and you don't get proper oxygen to your brain from the very earliest moments of your life. So perhaps you're born blue and there isn't oxygen going to your brain. So this is all trauma, right? Ooh, we have some little birdies over here. Here we have some little birdies in the corner over here. Oh, right over here, little birdies. So here we are. We're talking about an MRI of a healthy child, teen, young adult, and someone who's dealing with complex trauma. So let's say I don't form a healthy attachment. Let's say the mother is not attuned to the baby's needs. Let's say the mother doesn't look at the baby, glance at the baby. These mirror neurons in our brains are not lit up by face-to-face interaction with your primary caregiver. Let's say there's no body contact between you and your primary caregiver. Let's say there is a neglect. Maybe it's a physical neglect. Maybe it's an emotional neglect. Maybe there's abuse, maybe there's trauma, maybe the mom decides to shake the baby because the baby won't stop crying. Maybe the baby doesn't have enough food. Maybe the baby's diaper isn't being changed often enough, and so the baby's in pain because it has a diaper rash. Maybe the baby is filled with anxiety because there's no object constancy when you're a baby. You think that if the parent, the primary object, isn't there, then the primary object is never going to be there. So it causes a lot of stress. So I'm describing for you just the different levels of, this is attachment trauma that I've described so far, but complex trauma and attachment trauma go hand in hand oftentimes. So complex trauma, obviously I'm this little innocent baby, right? And if I don't have a primary object that's attuned to my needs, and there's no mirror neurons being lit up in my brain, and I can already sense from the time I'm an infant that I'm unwanted, unloved, uncared for. I'm being neglected emotionally and physically, or even just, some of these things can be happening. It doesn't have to be the whole shebang, right? It could just be intermittent neglect. Let's say I don't have proper clothing. Let's say I go from being too cold to being too hot. Let's say, hey, Jeffrey Sherman, so good to see you. I just glanced over here. So good to see everyone. Oh gosh, there's 41 of us. Hey, we're back up to where we used to have between 40 and 50 of us hanging out on Mondays. This is so awesome, you guys. So happy to see each and every one of you. Thanks for all the thumbs up. Thanks so much for the donation as well on the super chat thing. Hey, Wally. Hey. Aw, this is so cool. Really glad to see you. So you see, if all this type of complex trauma is going on, and this attachment trauma, and this little baby is unable to get away. I'm gonna glance away now and I'm gonna look back out at the birdies. So this little baby doesn't have control over its environment. This little baby is just innocent, and so, but there's this flood of chemicals. This baby is fighting to survive because it's having to take care of its own emotional needs. Sometimes it's thinking, how can I take care of my own physical needs as well? And it's impossible for a baby to take care of its own physical needs because it's a baby, right? But the baby's having to take care of its own emotional needs, and therefore it's lacking. And so this is very stressful. This provides an undue amount of stress to the brain for long periods of time. And then, the child grows into a toddler, and maybe there's, some neglect or some poor treatment going on from caregivers. And so there's more trauma and there's more neglect. And so this poor child is having to fend for itself. And so it bonds. It bonds to whatever it can bond to. Maybe it bonds to a pet. Maybe it bonds to a stranger, which can be very dangerous. This poor child doesn't have its needs met, and so it's scrambling, fighting to survive to get its needs met, and that's flooding its brain with a toxic soup of chemicals of adrenaline and cortisol and other things, right? So this happens long enough, and then when the child is actually able to communicate its needs and talk, and the child says, "I'm hungry," because it's just all it knows how to say, or "I'm thirsty," or "I need to go potty," or "I'm tired." Well, what often happens in these abusive or neglectful situations is their needs are either ignored or refuted. So if you're a child and you're saying, "I'm hungry," no, you're not. "I'm thirsty," no, you're not. "I'm cold," no, you're not. That hurts. No, it doesn't. "I need to go to sleep. I'm tired." No, you're not. No, you don't. "He hit me." No, he didn't. "I'm thirsty." No, you're not. "I don't like that." Yes, you do. So if this happens over and over and over and over again, it's very traumatic, right? And so the brain, if you look at it under an MRI, there's actual brain damage that's done from the basic needs and the emotional needs of the child not being met from birth and from a very young age. Let's say the child is born into a wonderful, loving, kind, good enough, healthy enough family with loving enough parents. And when I say enough, I'm speaking as per Pete Walker, like good enough, safe enough, healthy enough. Nobody's perfect. Let's say this child has everything it could possibly need or want from a loving mother and a loving father for the first 3, 5, 6 years of its life. Then, sadly, let's say the parents die in a car accident, and then the child is a ward of the state and goes into foster care. Well, it's good that this child's brain had the time and the space to develop in a healthy enough, good enough environment for the first 5 or 6 years. Then the child is thrown into kind of a fight or flight situation if the child's needs are not met by the foster parents or the foster family. So, see, complex trauma doesn't have to happen at birth. It doesn't have to happen when you're 5 or you're 6. It doesn't only happen when you're in an abusive marriage. It doesn't only happen when you're in a bullying situation. When Declan says, "That's very Hollywood, sudden car accident." Yeah, actually, I have a family member who they had their very first child, and they actually died in a car accident when the child was 3. So the child was raised by the grandparents. So it sounds very Hollywood, but it really does happen in real life. So see, if you're in an abusive situation, let's say you're in a bullying situation in school, right? Complex trauma can happen in a bullying situation in school as well. So, like, let's say you go to one school from preschool, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, and let's say something happens and you move. Let's say your family's in the military and then you move, or you just move for whatever reason you move, right? Well, let's say you're the new kid at a new school in 4th grade or 5th grade, right? Well, let's say you're bullied because you're the new kid. Well, if that bullying goes on for, I don't know, months, a couple years, maybe this person is just a bully and you end up knowing this person for 5, 6, 7, 8 years until you're out of school altogether, until you go into college or university. Well, that constitutes as complex trauma. There's an uneven power dynamic. This bully has placed themselves over you. Maybe you have the inability to stick up for yourself because it's too scary to stick up for yourself for whatever reason. And so your brain, again, is flooded with these toxic chemicals for years and years and years. Okay? So it's a hard thing. It's a really, really difficult thing when we are stuck in a fight, flight, freeze, or fawn situation and we can't get away for whatever reason. Now, in our adult minds, we can look back and go, well, I should have acted differently. I could have stood up for myself. I could have just told so-and-so. I could have told a teacher. I could have told the principal. I could have told the nurse, right? But see, that's our adult mind reasoning. When we're a child, we only have the ability to do the very best we can. So whether the ability to escape is perceived or real, complex trauma still happens. The effects of complex trauma still happen, right? So if you're looking, like I said, at the MRI, and you look at the healthy brain on the left with the needs being met, their needs are being attuned to, there's less trauma to the brain, less toxic chemicals, there's more of the needs being met, there's a healthy attachment, there's love, patience, kindness, acceptance, approval, food, shelter, water, clothing. Then the brain has the neural pathways, the neurotransmitters, the lobes, all of the parts functioning as they were created to function, right? But then if you look on the right at the brain of someone who endured complex trauma for any number of reasons that we've just mentioned over the last half hour or so, it's a difficult thing because you can look at the imagery, you can look at the MRI, and you have concrete evidence that there are some things that are wrong with the brain. There are some things missing, right? The chemicals are different. The neural pathways are different. The lobes are different. Things are different, right? And so the damage is done from complex trauma. But this is the silver lining on the outside of the pretty clouds that we have, like right here. The silver lining on the beautiful clouds, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, the good, like the light at the end of the tunnel, is that what doctors have discovered over the last 10 or 15 years is that neuroplasticity is something which gives us hope. And so neuroplasticity means that if we can learn it, we can unlearn it. It means that the brain can create new neural pathways. The brain can correct what has been done to it. Now, am I saying that our brains can return to the beautiful, healthy factory setting that was there prior to the damage that happened in utero and in birth and in attachment time when we were infants and toddlers and children and tweens and teens and young adults? And am I saying that we can wrong all the rights? No. But what I am saying is that there's hope, because we can create new neural pathways. There are modalities like neurofeedback, EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And then there are ways that we can create healthy habits in our life, okay? Which literally changes our behavior, right? If I modify my behavior from someone who allows myself to be talked to in a way which is disrespectful, if I modify my behavior in a way where typically I would choose unhealthy foods and I don't hydrate and I don't rest enough, I burn the candles at both ends, I don't get a lot of rest, I'm not cultivating safe relationships with healthy people who are respectful of my boundaries that I'm establishing in my life, you know, there is hope. There is hope. If I'm modifying my behavior in a way which is healthier, in air quotes, from what it was previously, like when I was being abused or mistreated or traumatized or neglected, let's say I establish a really healthy boundary with myself regarding my own cell phone usage, or the foods I choose, or the amount of hydration I choose, or how much rest I'm getting, or the types of relationships I allow in my life, right? If I modify my behavior, I change my habits, then my brain creates new neural pathways. And that means that we get to experience a different life than we had previously. It's a very, very, very healthy thing. Now, neurofeedback is a modality that you can look into. Dialectical behavior therapy is a modality that you can look into. A lot of it is just practicing mindfulness, thinking about what you're thinking about, staying present in the moment. And there are other modalities like trauma-sensitive, trauma-informed cognitive behavioral therapy, which is helping you to take a situation that you're in, and rather than responding in ways which you used to respond when you were in an abusive situation, you respond differently. And then there's EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. You take memories that you've already processed, traumatic situations that you've lived through, and through a modality that you work with a trauma-informed practitioner with, through eye movement, bilateral stimulation, either with paddles or earphones or a light bar, or just moving your eyes back and forth, depending on working with the practitioner, with the licensed professional. Then what you do is you take a cognition, you take a negative self-concept or a cognition, something that you've struggled with, and then you sit with it and you notice where it's at in your body. Where are you feeling it in your body? And then you check in with your practitioner, and then you reprocess it with the positive cognition or something that you decide with your practitioner which feels safe to you, feels like a true enough statement. Okay? Now, all these things help to create new neural pathways, thanks to neuroplasticity, which is being discovered by doctors over the past 10 or 15 years. And trauma-informed care is something which it's been a thing since the late 90s. Thank you, Vincent Felitti. Thank you, Bruce Perry. ACEs science is real. ACEs is adverse childhood experiences. There's scientific proof of everything I've just talked about with regards to the brain, and ways that we can correct the things that were done to us, ways that we can learn, or as Declan and I have had many conversations about, we are working towards being deprogrammed from how we were programmed previously within the context of our abuse. And we create new, healthier patterns in our life, and we make new, healthier choices. So It's a really healthy, helpful thing. But all of this can't happen unless we establish, Hunter says, family helps. Yes, I agree, Hunter. Family does help. You guys are my family, my friendly family of choice. So all of this takes place one moment at a time. And it means that we have to establish and maintain healthy boundaries with ourselves and with others, not just toxic people, but all people. And we establish and we learn what healthy people look like versus unhealthy people. And we can't do that unless we look at the ways in which we have been raised, which were unhealthy, right? If we're unable to look back at our childhood, if there was abuse present or there was neglect present, there was trauma, if we can't look back at that and acknowledge it and call it what it is, then we cannot create new patterns and new neural pathways. We can't establish newer, healthier boundaries with ourselves. We can't discern safe versus unsafe relationships. So I guess you could say that one of the most important facets of healthy boundaries and safe people is that we have to be honest about what it is that we've been through, and we need to be able to maintain a healthy level of separateness with the people in our lives who were responsible for our abuse or trauma, and the people in our lives who were responsible for facilitating or enabling the abuse or the trauma. If we're unable to create some distance between us and them, then establishing and maintaining healthy boundaries isn't going to happen. And learning safe relationships versus unsafe relationships isn't going to happen. It takes putting some distance between us and the people who were responsible for perpetuating or enabling the abuse. That's a really hard thing. Hi, Ashton. Hey, Ashton says, I must go, my family. Oh, we love you, Ashton. Thank you for being here. Ashton says, thank you for allowing me to share in your presence, and thank you for supporting me in mine. Many safe hugs to each of you. Oh, well, we're sending you safe hugs also. Thanks for being here. I'm sorry I didn't see you sooner. Declan says, when you repair the damage to the consciousness, it is then relatively easy to create new pathways, perceptions, and behaviors. Declan says, have a great week, Ashton. Oh, Poppy says, I'm so sorry if I missed saying hello to you. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you. And I'm so glad that everyone is here. I'm happy too. Don't worry about it. It's okay. We all just do our best, you guys. Take good care, Ashton. We love you. Yeah. You guys, we all just do the best we can. We all say hi when we can say hi. We do the very best we can. Really glad to see you, Ashton. Yeah. So it's a hard thing. I think one of the hardest parts about healing from complex trauma, and one of the hardest parts of establishing and maintaining healthy boundaries, and the hardest parts about recognizing safe people versus unsafe people, is creating that distance between me and those people who perpetuated or facilitated and enabled the abuse. It was so hard. I think that was the hardest part, you guys. Jeffrey says, it is hard to separate when it's family. You've then got to form a new one or a new community, a healthy one. Oh, exactly. It's the hardest part. Hardest part. Aw, Ashton, you don't have to say you're sorry. I think Ashton might have it on mute. I don't think she can hear us talking to her. You don't ever have to say you're sorry, Ashton. You go take care of yourself. Oh, Lance is checking in. Lance says, I'm struggling with anger issues internally with my narcissistic sister. I'm temporarily living with her and my mom because my dad passed a month ago. Gray Rock, minimal contact, but she's in the throes of a major smear campaign. Oh, Lance, that is so hard. Oh, goodness. It's really hard to heal if we're living under the same roof with people who are toxic. Oh my goodness. Please keep us posted on how that's going. My goodness. Declan says, actually, it's relatively easy to create new pathways. Is exaggerating because recovering from developmental regressions takes ages. It does. Well, I mean, it's easier once we create that distance, but it's difficult to create that distance. Wally says, the worst things about PTSD and CPTSD is you suffer alone and in silence so much that needed to be bonded with unhealthy people, for sure. Oops, whoops, my bad. I didn't mean to click on that, whatever that was. Yeah, we did bond with unhealthy people. Yeah. Hi, Cheryl. Cheryl says, hi there. I've been off for a while, but my Easter was great and my daughter came to see me. Oh, that's so cool. So happy to see you. That's great. I'm glad your daughter came to see you. I hope that was a good time for you. How'd that go? Joey says, what do you do when you get called a bad person for putting your boundaries in place? I set some boundaries, but then I was told I was a bad person. Well, Joey, it's a complicated thing, but if you want me to simplify it, which is a hard thing to do, but I will, I would say you must consider the source. So for me, okay, so let's say I'm Joey, and let's say I am doing my best to heal from complex trauma, years of childhood abuse, and abuse in adulthood. And let's say that I've decided that what I need to do to heal is I need to establish some healthy boundaries with certain people in my life. So what I would do is I would first identify who my safe person is going to be, because everyone needs a safe person, right? We need to find one safe person. And if your safe person is me, then great. If your safe person is Katie Morton, great. If your safe person is your husband, great. If your safe person is your best friend, great. A safe person is someone who speaks into your life in a way that's positive and always has your best interest in mind and wants what's best for you. Regardless of what happens to anyone else, they want what's best for you. They want you to take really good care of yourself. They want you to have healthy relationship with yourself, healthy relationship with others, healthy relationship with food, healthy relationship with money, healthy relationship with God or whomever you believe in, if you believe in anything at all, or the universe or a higher power. They want to, a safe person is a person that will speak into your life and they will say, good for you taking care of yourself. That is so good. Good for you that you're taking care of yourself, Joey. And so I would identify my safe person, and then my circle is very, very, very small at this point, right? My inner circle is now one person. So then I would slowly build that out. And I would only allow people who are quote unquote safe to speak into my life and give me advice. And anyone who is not safe, who I have not considered to be safe or decided that they were safe, they don't get to give me advice or speak into my life. Or they can, because I can't control them. They can try, but I don't have to listen to it, right? I just don't. So what I would do, Joey, is I would go, is this one of my safe people that's telling me I'm a bad person? That doesn't sound like a safe characteristic. In fact, that sounds like an unsafe characteristic. Maybe I need to move this person out a rung or two. Maybe they're no longer in my inner circle. Because, anyone who's a safe person isn't going to isn't going to condemn me for taking care of myself. So I guess the short answer, Joey, is consider the source. And unless they're in the arena fighting the battle with you and they have all the details, then they don't get to speak into your life. Their opinion doesn't matter. So that's Brene Brown. Brene Brown says, unless they're in the arena fighting the battle with you, they don't get to have an opinion. And I would just borrow from Brene Brown and channel your inner Brene Brown and rock that to town. Like, someone tries to tell me I'm a bad person because I'm not in touch with people who were abusive toward me or people who are guilting me about, trying to take care of myself. Someone wants to tell me I'm a bad person. I'm gonna be like, whatever, that's your opinion. I know I'm not a bad person. Why? Because bad people are abusers who are toxic and manipulative, and they are sadistic and they play the victim and they exploit others and they get their own needs met at the expense of someone else's well-being. And if I'm looking through that lens, I can go, I'm not a bad person because I'm not looking out for my own best interest at the expense of other people's well-being. I'm not abusing others. I'm not manipulating others. I'm not being unkind to others. I'm not deriving some sort of pleasure from seeing others in pain. I am not twisting and flipping the script and playing the victim and just being an all-around asshole. So therefore, I'm not the bad person. Maybe it's that person who's calling me the bad person that's the bad person. So in short, Joey, that person is projecting. It's what's called projecting. They are projecting their badness onto you because you are good and they don't like your goodness. So what I would do is I would ignore them and I would move on and live your life and get healthy and enjoy healthy relationships with yourself, healthy relationship with your higher power, healthy relationship with other people, with food, with money, with whomever you decide to be involved with. And that might not include that person who thinks you're a bad person. So, and that's okay. Not everyone's gonna like you. Not everyone's gonna like me. So, that's okay. I don't need them to like me. It's all good. Hey, Bit the Apple. So good to see you. Bit the Apple says, a big positive I can pick out from my recovery is the gaslighting / narcissism stands out like a big red flag now, where before it would hit me like a ton of bricks, sometimes for days. That is so well said, Bit the Apple. It did used to hit me like a ton of bricks. And sometimes it was for days or sometimes even weeks. But now it doesn't, right? Now I'm like, whatever. But but that's the journey, right? That's the sacred work that we get to do, is we get to heal from all this junk, and then it doesn't affect us as much. Good for you. Very well said. Joey says, thanks, Athena. You never steer me wrong. You always give me the greatest, wisest advice. You're most definitely in my safe circle. Yay! I'm so glad, Joey. Lance says, when I was naive and ignorant, I assumed the safe person was safe. Same here. Same here, Lance. It's not just you. And you're very welcome, Miss Joey. I love you. Cheryl says, God is the only one we care about liking and loving us. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I care about God's opinion about me, but I don't care about other people unless they're in the arena with me, right? Poppy says, this is how you respond to a toxic person. It's okay if you disagree with me. I can't force you to be right. Right? You're so funny. Declan says, a big realization for me was that my problems with boundaries started because developing a sense of self equals boundaries as an infant was sabotaged. Ooh, that's big, Declan. That's so true. We were sabotaged in infancy. Many of us were. Many of us were. And it's like, hello, we're like learning how to be an adult when we're already an adult, but then we're also like having to like reparent our infant selves and our toddler selves and our childhood selves and our tween and our teen and our young adult. And it's like, it's so much work. It's exhausting. Hunter says, in the game Night in the Woods, there is an apt quote. Ooh, tell me. Tell me what the apt quote is. Hunter says, a universe that doesn't care and people that do. Aww. Universe being unsafe people. Heck yes. Wally says, so true. Jeffrey Sherman says, same, Declan, same. Yeah, you guys, many of us we were sabotaged from infancy. It's like, hello, we have to like reparent ourselves. How did we get over time? It's like an hour and 4 minutes already. Like, seriously. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm going to let you all go. Yeah, that is profound. Hunter Bit the Apple says that is profound. Yes, happy belated birthday, Miss Joey. Happy birthday to Poppy pretty soon. Happy birthday to Gadir on October 23rd. And happy birthday to all the peeps. All of my family, all of my friendly family of choice. Good night, everybody. We'll see you next week, okay? Same time, same place, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, every single Monday. Yay. Oh, you're so welcome. Bit the Apple says, thank you so much for these chats, so uplifting and validating. You are so welcome. Yes. Oh, bye, August. I'm so happy to see you. Bye, everybody. Take really good care of yourself tonight. I look forward